People think poverty comes from laziness. They think struggle comes from not doing enough. So they wake up earlier, work longer, sacrifice more, and still, nothing changes. Hard work without order does not attract blessing. It quietly pushes it away. Many people believe that the more hours they give, the more sacrifice they make, the more exhausted they become, the closer they are to financial breakthrough. Yet reality keeps proving the opposite. You see people who barely seem rushed, who stop working at a reasonable hour, who protect their routines and somehow opportunities find them. Meanwhile, others grind endlessly, barely sleep, say yes to everything, and still remain stuck. This is not an accident. Effort alone was never designed to carry blessing. Order is the vessel, and without a vessel, even abundance spills onto the ground. When life lacks structure, every action fights against the next. You wake up already behind, reacting instead of choosing. You rush through what should be meaningful and overinvest energy in what does not matter. Decisions are made under pressure, not wisdom. In this state, work becomes noisy. It consumes strength, but produces little value. Money, which follows clarity and direction, cannot settle in such an environment. Just like water runs off uneven ground, financial flow escapes a disordered life. Order is not about rigidity or control. It is about alignment. It is knowing what comes first and what must wait. It is creating boundaries so that energy is not wasted. Without order, people confuse movement with progress. They are constantly active, constantly tired, constantly stressed, yet nothing compounds. Each day starts from zero because nothing was intentionally built the day before. This cycle is exhausting, and exhaustion is one of the greatest enemies of prosperity. A tired mind cannot think strategically. A drained soul cannot sense opportunity. A rushed heart cannot act wisely. Hard work without order also creates spiritual noise. When everything feels urgent, nothing feels sacred. Time loses hierarchy. There is no protected space for reflection, learning, gratitude, or rest. Work begins to replace trust. People start believing that if they stop, everything will collapse. This belief itself blocks blessing because it places all power in human effort and none in higher alignment. True provision requires partnership, human action guided by wisdom, not panic-driven labor. Another hidden danger of disorder is leakage. Money leaks through small, repeated decisions made without thought. Buying convenience because there is no time. Paying penalties because things were forgotten. Missing opportunities because attention was divided. Saying yes to low vow. You work because there was no clear plan. None of these feel dramatic, but together they slowly drain progress. Order closes these leaks. It creates systems where fewer decisions are needed and fewer mistakes occur. Wealth grows not only by earning more, but by losing less. People trapped in chaotic effort often feel proud of how much they endure. They wear exhaustion as proof of worth, but suffering is not a strategy. Pain does not guarantee progress. Discipline does. Order turns effort into direction. It allows the same amount of work to produce 10 times the result. When priorities are clear, energy is focused. When routines are stable, momentum builds. When boundaries are respected, the mind stays sharp. Order also changes how opportunities recognize you. Opportunities are attracted to people who can hold them. If your life is already overflowing with disorder, any new responsibility feels like a burden. If your days are structured, new opportunities fit naturally into place. This is why some people receive more while doing less. They have created space. Space is not emptiness, it is readiness. Even spiritually, order is the gateway to mercy. Chaos invites constant reaction, and constant reaction puts life in survival mode. In survival mode, fear leads, not wisdom. But when life has rhythm, the nervous system calms, the mind clears, and intuition strengthens. Better choices follow naturally. Better choices lead to better outcomes. Over time, what looked like luck reveals itself as alignment. The most painful truth for many is this: Working harder often feels easier than creating order. Order requires honesty. It forces you to confront distractions, bad habits, misplaced priorities, and unhealthy beliefs about worth. It asks you to stop proving yourself through exhaustion and start trusting through structure. That transition is uncomfortable, but it is necessary. Poverty is not only an economic condition, it is often a pattern of disorder repeated daily. When order enters, life slows down in the best way, not less ambition, but less panic, not less effort, but more precision. Work becomes meaningful again because it serves a purpose instead of filling time. Rest becomes restorative instead of guilty, and slowly, almost quietly, things begin to shift. Money stays longer, decisions improve, opportunities feel timed rather than chased. In conclusion, the problem is not that people work too little, it is that they work without alignment. Chaos consumes the reward of effort before it ever reaches the hands. Order is not optional for prosperity, it is essential. When you build structure into your days, your choices, and your priorities, effort finally has somewhere to land. And when effort lands inside order, blessing has a place to stay. Chaos drains money faster than laziness, and this truth is deeply uncomfortable because it contradicts everything people have been taught to believe. Laziness is visible. It has a shape that can be pointed at and blamed. Chaos, however, hides behind activity. It disguises itself as effort, as struggle, as doing your best. A chaotic person often looks hardworking from the outside, yet their financial life quietly collapses from the inside. Not because they are unwilling to work, but because disorder consumes resources faster than effort can replace them. When life is chaotic, money does not disappear all at once. It leaks. It leaks through rushed decisions, forgotten responsibilities, and constant emergencies. A bill paid late here, an unnecessary expense there, a penalty, a replacement, a repair that could have been avoided. None of these seem significant on their own, but together they create a pattern where income never catches up to loss. The person works, earns, and then watches the results vanish without understanding why. This is not bad luck. It is the predictable cost of disorder. Chaos forces people to live in reaction mode. When every day feels urgent, there is no space to think ahead. Financial planning becomes impossible because survival consumes all attention. Decisions are made to relieve immediate pressure rather than to create long-term stability. In this state, people choose convenience over wisdom. They pay more to save time they do not manage anyway. They accept unfavorable terms because they need fast relief. Over time, this reactive way of living becomes expensive, both financially and emotionally. One of the most damaging effects of chaos is decision fatigue. When nothing is organized, the mind is forced to make hundreds of small choices every day. What to do first, what to delay, what to fix, what to ignore. Each decision drains mental energy. As energy drops, the quality of decisions declines. Poor financial choices are rarely made because someone lacks intelligence. They are made because someone is mentally exhausted. Chaos creates this exhaustion daily, ensuring that mistakes become inevitable. Chaos also destroys consistency, and consistency is one of the strongest builders of wealth. Even small, steady actions compound over time. But chaos interrupts momentum, savings start and stop, healthy habits form and break, projects begin and are abandoned, income streams are inconsistent because attention is scattered, nothing is allowed to mature. Everything stays in its infancy. Laziness may slow progress, but chaos resets it repeatedly to zero. Another hidden cost of chaos is missed opportunity. Opportunities rarely announce themselves loudly. They require attention, timing, and readiness. A chaotic person is always late, always distracted, always overwhelmed. Even when opportunity appears, it feels like an inconvenience rather than a gift. There is no capacity to say yes because life already feels full, not full of purpose, but full of noise. As a result, potential breakthroughs pass quietly by, unnoticed or unclaimed. Financial instability caused by chaos also damages confidence. When people cannot predict their own outcomes, they begin to doubt themselves. This doubt affects how they negotiate, how they plan, and how they take risks. They aim lower, not because they lack ability, but because they lack trust in their own systems. Chaos creates a self-fulfilling cycle. Disorder leads to loss, loss leads to fear, fear leads to even more disorder. Unlike laziness, chaos keeps people busy enough to feel justified. A lazy person eventually confronts the need to change. A chaotic person feels trapped in constant motion, believing rest or reorganization is a luxury they cannot afford. This belief is one of the greatest deceptions. The truth is that chaos is far more expensive than pause. A single moment of clarity can save months of wasted effort. A single system can prevent years of repeated mistakes. Order does not eliminate effort, it multiplies its effect. When life is organized, money has direction. Income is assigned purpose. Expenses are anticipated rather than feared. Time is respected. Energy is preserved. Even modest earnings begin to stretch further because less is lost to error and impulse. Stability emerges not from earning more, but from managing life with intention. In conclusion, laziness slows growth, but chaos destroys it. A person who does nothing loses potential, but a person who lives in disorder loses what they already have. Chaos quietly taxes every area of life, especially finances, until effort feels pointless. The path out of poverty is not endless work. It is clarity, structure, and deliberate living. When chaos is removed, money stops leaking. When money stops leaking, progress finally becomes visible. Overworking weakens wisdom, and this is one of the most invisible reasons people remain stuck financially despite giving everything they have. Wisdom does not disappear suddenly, it fades quietly under exhaustion. When a person is constantly tired, their mind shifts from thoughtful to reactive, from discerning to impulsive. They still make decisions, but those decisions are no longer guided by clarity. They are guided by urgency, fear, and the desperate need for relief. In this state, even intelligent, capable people begin to act against their own long-term interests without realizing it. The human mind was not designed for non-stop output. It requires cycles of effort and recovery to function well. When those cycles are ignored, judgment suffers first. Small compromises become normal. "I'll fix it later" becomes a habit. Shortcuts replace strategy. Over time, these small mental slips compound into major financial consequences. Bad contracts are accepted, unhealthy partnerships are tolerated, and risky choices are justified because there is no mental space left to evaluate them properly. Exhaustion does not just slow you down, it rewires how you think. When someone is overworked, their ability to see patterns collapses. Wisdom depends on seeing connections, understanding how today's choices affect tomorrow's outcomes. Fatigue narrows focus to the present moment only. The future feels abstract and distant. This is why overworked people often sacrifice long-term gain for short-term comfort. They are not foolish, they are depleted. Their brain is simply trying to survive the day. Financial wisdom cannot grow in survival mode. Overworking also weakens emotional regulation. A tired person is more easily irritated, more defensive, more anxious. These emotional shifts directly affect financial behavior. Spending becomes a form of relief. Decisions become emotionally charged instead of rational. Conflict increases, damaging relationships that could have led to collaboration or support. Opportunities are rejected not because they are bad, but because the person lacks the emotional bandwidth to handle change. Wisdom requires calm, and calm cannot exist in constant strain. Another dangerous effect of exhaustion is the loss of intuition. Intuition is not mystical, it is the brain's ability to quickly recognize patterns based on experience, but intuition requires stillness. When life is filled with noise, intuition is drowned out. Overworked people stop trusting their inner signals and start relying on urgency and external pressure instead. This leads to choices that look logical in the moment but feel wrong later. The regret that follows is often labeled as bad luck, when it is actually the cost of ignoring inner clarity. Overworking also distorts priorities. When everything feels urgent, nothing feels important. Time is allocated based on pressure rather than value. Low-impact tasks consume hours, while high-impact decisions are delayed or rushed. Financial growth depends on doing a few important things well, not many things poorly. Exhaustion reverses this logic. It encourages constant activity while avoiding the deep thinking required for meaningful progress. Wisdom also includes knowing when to stop. Overworked people lose this ability. They continue investing in failing paths because they are too tired to reassess. They confuse persistence with stubbornness. Instead of stepping back to evaluate, they push harder, believing effort will eventually compensate for poor direction. This mindset keeps people trapped in unproductive cycles for years. True wisdom knows when effort must be redirected, not increased. Perhaps the most tragic effect of overworking is that it convinces people they cannot afford rest. Rest begins to feel dangerous, like a risk instead of a necessity. Yet rest is where insight is born. Some of the best financial decisions come not during action, but during pause. Clarity often arrives when the mind is quiet enough to listen. By eliminating rest, overworked people eliminate the very condition required for wise choices. In conclusion, overworking does not create more wisdom, it consumes it. Exhaustion narrows perspective, weakens judgment, and silences intuition. Financial struggle often persists not because of a lack of effort, but because effort has gone unchecked by reflection. When wisdom is restored through balance, decisions improve naturally, and when decisions improve, outcomes follow. True progress begins not when you do more, but when you think better, and thinking better requires rest, clarity, and restraint. Being busy is not the same as being productive, yet this confusion traps countless people in a cycle of constant motion and minimal progress. From the outside, a busy life looks impressive. Days are full, schedules are packed, messages never stop, and exhaustion feels justified. But productivity is not measured by how much time is consumed. It is measured by what actually changes as a result of that time. Many people spend years busy without building anything lasting, and this is one of the quiet reasons financial growth remains out of reach. Busyness often comes from unclear priorities. When a person does not know what truly matters, everything feels equally important. As a result, attention is scattered across many small tasks that create the illusion of progress but produce little value. Emails are answered, calls are made, errands are completed, yet nothing moves forward in a meaningful way. Wealth, whether financial or personal, is created through a few high-impact actions repeated consistently. Busyness avoids these actions because they require focus, courage, and patience. Another danger of constant busyness is that it prevents deep work. Deep work is the kind of focused effort that creates systems, ideas, and long-term results. It requires uninterrupted time and mental clarity. A busy life rarely allows this. Interruptions become normal and concentration weakens. People jump from task to task, never staying long enough in one place to produce something of real substance. Over time, this habit trains the mind to avoid depth, making meaningful productivity even harder to achieve. Busyness also becomes a way to avoid difficult decisions. Staying active feels safer than slowing down and evaluating direction. Reflection can be uncomfortable because it exposes what is not working. By filling every moment, people escape the responsibility of choosing a clear path. This avoidance has a cost. Without deliberate direction, effort is spread thin, and results remain small. Productivity requires saying no, but busyness thrives on saying yes to everything. There is also an emotional component to busyness. For many, being busy is tied to identity and self-worth. Activity becomes proof of value. Rest feels undeserved. Stillness feels unproductive. This mindset is dangerous because it disconnects effort from outcome. People begin to measure success by how tired they are rather than by what they have achieved. Over time, exhaustion replaces fulfillment, and frustration replaces motivation. Financially, busyness creates inefficiency. Time is the most valuable resource, yet a busy person rarely protects it. Low-value tasks consume hours that could have been invested in learning, planning, or creating. Opportunities that require preparation are missed because there is no space to pursue them. Even when income increases, it often comes with increased busyness, maintaining the same level of stress without improving quality of life. Productivity, in contrast, seeks leverage, ways to achieve more with less strain. Being busy also weakens feedback loops. Productivity depends on reviewing what works and what does not. A busy schedule leaves no room for review. Mistakes are repeated because they are never examined. Systems are not refined because there is no pause to adjust them. This leads to stagnation disguised as motion. People feel like they are moving fast, yet they remain in the same place year after year. True productivity simplifies. It reduces noise and concentrates effort. It is calm rather than frantic. Productive people often appear less busy because their actions are intentional. They choose tasks that move the needle and ignore those that do not. This selective approach creates space for thinking, creativity, and growth. Over time, results compound, making progress visible and sustainable. In conclusion, busyness is easy to confuse with productivity because both involve effort. But only productivity creates lasting change. A life filled with activity but lacking direction will drain energy without delivering results. Financial growth requires focus, not frenzy. When people learn to slow down, prioritize, and commit to meaningful work, effort begins to produce outcomes. Progress is not about doing more. It is about doing what matters, consistently and well. Rest is an act of faith, not laziness, yet in a world that glorifies constant effort, this truth is often rejected. Many people believe that stopping means falling behind, that resting is dangerous, and that if they slow down even briefly, everything they have built will collapse. This belief quietly shapes how they live and work. They push through exhaustion, ignore warning signs, and measure their worth by how much they can endure. Over time, this mindset does not produce abundance. It produces burnout, poor judgment, and a deep sense of insecurity that no amount of work seems to fix. True rest requires trust. It is the decision to step back and acknowledge that life is not sustained by effort alone. When someone rests intentionally, they declare that provision does not come only from their hands. This is why rest feels uncomfortable to those who rely entirely on control. Stopping forces them to confront the fear that without constant action, they are not enough. Yet this fear is precisely what keeps many people trapped in cycles of struggle. Faith is not passive. It is the courage to pause without panic. Without rest, the mind becomes noisy. Thoughts blur together, problems feel larger than they are, and solutions remain hidden. Rest clears mental clutter. It allows perspective to return. Often, what felt overwhelming during exhaustion becomes manageable after a pause. Financial stress is especially affected by this. Tired minds magnify fear. making risks seem catastrophic and opportunities seem impossible. Rest restores proportion. It reminds the mind that not every problem requires immediate action, and that not every decision must be made under pressure. Rest also protects wisdom. When people are constantly working, they lose the ability to reflect. Reflection is where learning happens. It is where mistakes are recognized and corrected. Without it, people repeat the same errors, convinced that working harder will eventually compensate. Rest interrupts this pattern. It creates space to ask better questions. What is working? What is not? What should change? These questions are essential for growth, yet they are rarely asked in the middle of exhaustion. There is also a physical dimension to rest that directly affects prosperity. Chronic fatigue weakens focus, memory, and emotional regulation. It increases impulsivity and reduces patience. These changes subtly influence financial behavior. Spending becomes reactive. Planning becomes shallow. Long-term goals lose urgency. Rest repairs these systems. It restores balance to the body and clarity to the mind, making disciplined choices possible again. Rest challenges the false belief that struggle equals virtue. Many people feel guilty when they rest because they associate worth with effort. But worth is not measured by strain. Sustainable success requires rhythm, not sacrifice without limit. Even nature follows this law. Seasons alternate between growth and recovery. Ignoring this rhythm leads to depletion. Humans are no different. A life without rest eventually consumes itself. Rest also creates space for gratitude. When people are always rushing, they overlook progress and focus only on what is missing. Gratitude requires stillness. It shifts attention from scarcity to sufficiency. This shift matters because mindset influences behavior. A grateful person makes calmer decisions, values what they have, and builds from stability rather than desperation. Desperation repels abundance. Calm attracts it. Perhaps the most powerful aspect of rest is that it strengthens trust in timing. Not everything needs to happen immediately. Some things unfold naturally when pressure is removed. Rest teaches patience, and patience is a form of wisdom. It prevents premature action and unnecessary risk. Many financial mistakes are made not because of bad intentions, but because of impatience fueled by exhaustion. In conclusion, rest is not the enemy of progress. It is its foundation. Choosing to rest is choosing to trust that life is supported by more than relentless effort. It restores clarity, protects wisdom, and realigns priorities. When rest is honored, work becomes more effective, decisions improve, and anxiety loosens its grip. True prosperity grows not from constant strain, but from balanced effort guided by faith, rhythm, and trust. Money follows calm, not desperation, and this principle explains why two people with similar skills and opportunities can experience completely different financial outcomes. Desperation is loud. It rushes decisions, magnifies fear, and narrows vision. Calm, on the other hand, creates space. It allows thought, patience, and discernment to guide action. While desperation pushes, calm attracts. This difference is subtle but powerful, and it shapes how money responds to a person over time. When someone is desperate, every financial decision feels urgent. There is no room to wait, negotiate, or evaluate. Opportunities are grabbed too quickly, often without full understanding. This urgency is felt by others as well. People sense when someone needs something badly, and that need weakens their position. Terms become less favorable, respect diminishes, and trust erodes. Desperation silently signals instability, making it harder to form strong financial relationships. Calm creates the opposite effect. A calm person does not rush. They listen, they ask questions, they are willing to walk away. This willingness changes everything. It communicates confidence and self-respect. Others respond differently to someone who is not pressured by fear. Deals improve, conversations deepen, opportunities unfold naturally. Money, which often flows through relationships and trust, gravitates toward this stability. Desperation also distorts perception. When fear is high, risks appear smaller than they are, and rewards appear larger. This imbalance leads to reckless behavior. People chase quick fixes, invest in promises without substance, and ignore warning signs. Calm restores balance. It allows risks to be weighed honestly and rewards to be seen clearly. Wise financial growth depends on accurate perception, and accurate perception requires emotional steadiness. Another consequence of desperation is self-sabotage. In a desperate state, people often accept situations that harm them long-term. They tolerate unfair conditions, undervalue their time, and compromise principles for immediate relief. These choices may solve short-term problems but create deeper issues later. Calm prevents this downward spiral. It empowers people to protect their boundaries and act from values rather than fear. Calm also improves consistency. Desperation leads to emotional highs and lows. One day feels hopeful, the next hopeless. Financial behavior mirrors this instability. Calm creates steadiness. Steady effort, even when modest, compounds over time. Small, consistent actions often outperform dramatic but unstable moves. Wealth is built quietly through patience, not dramatically through panic. There is also a physiological dimension to this principle. Desperation activates stress responses in the body. Chronic stress impairs memory, focus, and decision-making. It reduces creativity and increases impulsivity. Calm restores the nervous system. When the body feels safe, the mind works better. Ideas emerge, solutions appear. This internal environment directly influences external outcomes. Money also tends to follow those who manage pressure well. Leadership, responsibility, and opportunity are given to people who remain composed under stress. Calm is a signal of reliability. It suggests that a person can handle complexity without falling apart. Desperation signals the opposite. Over time, systems reward calm because it is associated with stability and foresight. In conclusion, desperation repels the very thing it seeks. It weakens judgment, damages relationships, and invites poor choices. Calm, though quieter, is far more powerful. It creates clarity, trust, and patience. When calm becomes a habit, money begins to respond differently, opportunities align, decisions improve, progress becomes steady rather than frantic. True financial growth is not forced, it is allowed, and it begins with inner calm. Order invites mercy and prosperity because it creates a life that can actually hold blessing. Many people ask why goodness comes to them briefly and then disappears just as quickly. They experience moments of income, opportunity, or relief, only to find themselves back where they started. This cycle is not always about effort or worthiness. Often it is about capacity. Without order, even good things cannot remain. They arrive, find no structure to support them, and quietly leave. Order is not about perfection. It is about intentional alignment. It means that time has hierarchy, priorities have clarity, and actions follow purpose rather than impulse. When life is ordered, decisions are made from understanding instead of urgency. This shift changes everything. Instead of reacting to problems, people anticipate them. Instead of chasing opportunities, they prepare for them. Preparation is a powerful invitation. It signals readiness, and readiness attracts favor. Mercy thrives in order because order reduces unnecessary struggle. When life is disorganized, people create problems that did not need to exist. Missed deadlines, forgotten responsibilities, repeated mistakes, all of these invite pressure and judgment. Order removes this friction. It simplifies life. It allows energy to be used for growth rather than damage control. In such an environment, compassion naturally replaces chaos, both internally and externally. Order also protects resources. Time, energy, and money are guarded when systems are in place. Without order, these resources are constantly drained by inefficiency. Tasks take longer, Errors multiply. Stress increases. Over time, this erosion becomes expensive. Order acts like a container. It keeps resources from leaking away. As a result, even modest means begin to feel sufficient. And sufficiency is fertile ground for prosperity. Prosperity requires consistency, and consistency is impossible without order. Repeated positive actions build momentum. Savings grow, skills develop, and relationships strengthen. Order supports this repetition by removing obstacles. When routines are established, effort becomes easier. Discipline turns into habit. Progress no longer depends on motivation, which is unreliable, but on structure, which is steady. Order also creates space for reflection. Reflection allows learning. Learning leads to wisdom. Wisdom guides better decisions. This chain is essential for long-term success. A chaotic life leaves no room for reflection, so mistakes are repeated. Order slows life down just enough to allow awareness. Awareness transforms experience into insight. Insight transforms effort into results. There is also a spiritual dimension to order. Order expresses respect for time, for life, for responsibility. It is a form of humility, an acknowledgement that life functions best within boundaries. When boundaries are honored, harmony emerges. Harmony invites peace. Peace supports clarity. Clarity attracts opportunity. What appears as prosperity on the surface often begins as alignment beneath it. In conclusion, order is not restrictive, it is merciful. It removes unnecessary hardship and creates space for growth. Prosperity does not come from chaos, no matter how intense the effort. It comes from lives that are prepared, aligned, and stable enough to receive it. When order is established, mercy follows naturally, and prosperity finds a place to stay.